Welcome to a new episode of Flipping Miami. I'm your host, Raul Balufe. And on this episode today, I have a very special guest. He's not only a really good friend of mine, but he is really one of my best friends. But he does luxury real estate. He does a ton of action, man. He does fix and flips. He has rentals. Young dude under 30 years old, absolutely crushing it. Started in this business only years ago and really making a lot of noise, man. He's been persistent. He's always doing deals. He's always sending marketing, making phone calls. And he just hired his first girl. So he's been a one-man show, but he's been doing a ton of stuff. He's always hanging with the right people. And I brought him on. Number one, I wanted to ask him a lot more questions and dig a little deeper into why he got into it and start doing all this. But dude, he's just going to add a lot of value. He's got like luxury under his belt. He knows how to do that. He's been able to successfully do fix and flips. He has great relationships. He gets hard money from people. So he really understands the game. And I think he can share a lot of insight. But yeah, his name is David Vazquez. And bro, thanks for coming on, man.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
All good. This is the first time that we talk on like this professional level, so it should be fun.
I know.
We've done deals before together, and he's sold some, whatever. But dude, and I know you personally from high school. Actually, that's how we met. But I always like to start the show is like I like to start from the beginning. Like, let's say that one of our listeners would have met you in high school. Like, who was David in high school? Like, did you get good grades? Were you playing sports? What was like your high school like? Were you good? What was that like in early on, like in the high school world?
So in high school, I was pretty much like a jock. Baseball was my life. All I thought about was baseball. And yeah, I took school pretty serious because it was kind of just the way I was raised. And I was like in the honors classes, got good grades. But, I wasn't like fully committed to like academics.
Right.
But I was a pretty good baseball player. I got a college scholarship to go play at FIU. And so that's what I did. And then at FIU, again, was not really thinking about business, real estate, nothing. Just thinking about baseball until I got hurt my sophomore year. I started realizing the major leagues is probably a long shot for me. And that's when I started kind of thinking about what I wanted to do moving forward in my life.
Dude, and let me ask you this, like, how much do you think that, because playing sports, and you probably played baseball even before high school, but playing sports through high school and college is not easy. Like, just morning and night, you have to lift, you have like a strict regimen. Like, how do you think that has been able to help you as when it comes to like your personal life, and real estate and things? Like, are there like a lot of habits and things you see yourself doing nowadays? Like, how do you feel that has helped, kind of like move on out of baseball into the professional business world?
I think it makes a big difference. I think it definitely helps. A few things. One, in baseball, it's a team game. So you have to be able to work with other people, which is very important in the business world. Two, when you play at a high level, high school, high intense travel, Division I baseball, there's a huge commitment to go to that. I mean, we were waking up at 5 a.m. for workouts. Then we had class from like 8 to 12. Then we had practice from 1 to 6 p.m. and then study hall hours, 7 to 9, and then do it all over the next day.
Shit.
So it teaches you how to commit to something and how to structure, kind of like a schedule, which at the end of the day, we're all entrepreneurs. We have to be structured. No one's going to be waking us up to go make those calls or, whatever it is that you're doing that day. So I think those two factors. And the third one, which is also, I think, very important for baseball, especially. Baseball is a game of failure. If you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're failing 70% of times. You are an amazing hitter if you're hitting 300.
Yep.
So you have to learn how to deal with failure, which is, I think, very important, not only for business, but for life, because we're all going to get slapped in the face at one point. We're all going to fail. We're all going to have a bad deal. We're all going to have that client that you thought was going to work with you and worked with your competitive realtor.
Dude, that's actually like so key. And I noticed that like people who play sports very competitively throughout their youth and growing up and even in college, like they just have a different way that they structure their life. Like it, and typically most of them stay pretty fit among their journey, even when they get out of sports. But the two key things I got from that is like failing forward, in baseball and in a lot of sports. So baseball, a lot. Every time you go up to bat, there's a high chance you're not going to get on base or you're not going to hit home run, whatever. So you're failing a ton, and brothers, you miss a ton of strikes. You strike out. Just curious, what was? Do you remember or do you have an idea of what like your lifetime batting average was, or like from like high school to college, or no?
I know my sophomore year was my best year. I hit like over 500 sophomore year, but then I had a terrible junior year. I hit like 300, which for high school is not good.
Right.
And then senior year, I did pretty good my senior year. But then college, to be honest, I never really got my real college career started because I came into it my freshman year. The entire starting lineup came back. So I was kind of like the 10th guy off the bench, first guy off the bench. And then my second sophomore year, I was like the guy at that point. I crushed it in the fall. So I was getting ready for season. Had a slow start to the season, then broke my hand, and then it kind of just
little by little. Yeah, and so besides the failing and then like the structure, you got to wake up at 4:30, you got to hit the first workout at 5:30 or whatever it was, and then you got to travel and you got to do schoolwork at the end. Like all that, I feel like whether you know it or not, like builds and instills in you. So, and the reason I say this is like. And I love asking that question of like the high school to college years because I feel like that's when a lot of people are building up their personality or kind of understanding what they want to do next. And if you played sports in high school and college, like there's so much in your mind that you can use as an advantage to get into something like real estate that is like there's quote unquote freedom, but really if you have structure, you'll actually be the one to make the most amount of money or probably do the most deals because a lot of people are not structured.
Yeah.
And what is like, maybe nowadays, like what is some of your, I know we're filming this in Corona and it's kind of like messed up here, but let's say before this, what does some of your days look like as far as like structure and things you do and like some of the activities you do like for your real estate world?
So I'm sure we're going to get into it later, but I'm primarily a real estate agent. That's my main thing.
Right.
And as you know, I flip properties as well. I own some rental properties,
Love it.
More as of lately than, I haven't owned properties for too long. And I'm sure we'll get into that later. But so my main business is selling homes as a realtor. And I mean, my day to day before this basically looked like wake up very early, 6 a.m., get a good workout in, go to the gym, back home, like showered and ready to start my day by like 7:30. And it starts really kind of organizing my day. I first of all, I write down like I have a daily to-do list of everything that's got to get done that day. So that's basically organized in the morning or the night before. Most of my mornings consist of lead generation. So if I have any follow-up calls, if I have to finish any emails, if I have to kind of take care of my marketing, that's all done in the morning most of the time. A lot of our showings are done afternoons, weekends, of course. And then we're on the road a lot because if we're not showing properties, we're not selling. But we need to be, and this is, I've been in sales and real estate sales for probably 6.5 years now.
Yeah.
And every year I'm trying to get better. I'm not a perfect broker by any means. But every year I try to make my business better and run more like a business and not just like a crazy realtor that just tries to, snatch up any. And
there's not many of those in Miami, I'm sure.
No, it's tough. I mean, the ones that are structured and do have a business plan are the ones that succeed and sell a lot and make a ton of money.
Yeah, no, I love and like. So something that David like kind of mentioned was dude, he wakes up early, does his workout, and the first thing he goes for when he gets to work is like the lead gen, the marketing, follow up. And I would guess that you start doing those things in the morning to get that out of the way. Number one, it's kind of like it can be fun. Don't get me wrong, it can be fun, but it is a little bit tedious. But also, that's literally probably the most important part of the business. You know, like making sure you have leads coming in, making sure the leads that you do have are being serviced, all that stuff. Dude, so let's kind of like fast forward a little bit. You went to high school, did the college thing, you played baseball, and you started getting into real estate. What was like your first step into like the real estate world? I know you're an agent now, but like, what was your first step? Did you like get a coach? Did you get go to a brokerage? Did you talk to a friend? Like, yeah, what happened in that? What was like that first step?
Once I quit baseball, I was basically thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? And for the rest of my life, or at least, for work.
Right.
And I found myself always reading about real estate articles, just found myself always trying to learn about real estate for whatever reason. Probably because first my dad is a real estate attorney. So he was involved in the business.
Yeah.
And I saw that most people that I knew that were very wealthy were all in the real estate business somehow. So I always thought, well, I want to be like them.
Right.
So that's kind of my whole plan. And my first step thinking, okay, how do I be an investor and own, hundreds of properties like these people, and get my foot in the door in real estate? Well, let me get my license, and at least because license doesn't cost anything. I mean, $500 to get your license, whatever it is.
Right.
And basically you can kind of learn the business while you go. So I got my license my junior year of college, started working. And I've always, from day one, from junior year of high school, I've always been like under a mentor. So I was under a mentor for the first year and a half. I made probably like my junior year, which was the first full year, 12 months in real estate, I probably made like $9,000. It was terrible.
Right.
But I wasn't worried about the money then. I was just worried about learning the business. I didn't have financial, I didn't have any requirements to meet because I was still living at home, whatever. I was 20 years old. So I made very little money, but then after my senior year, started doing my master's in real estate, actually.
Yeah.
And that's when I met another mentor of mine that kind of recruited me to his team. And he really showed me, he kind of really advanced my career, which showed me how to put deals together, how to talk to clients, how to negotiate, just from being around him. And like anything else, you have to, if you're not paying a mentor directly, you're going to have to, in this business, you're going to have to pay them like at least like in the deal. So yeah. I didn't mind sharing some of the commission from my deals because I knew in the long run it was going to help me. And I mean, I probably was under someone's guidance or mentorship well beyond the time that I actually needed to happen. But that was probably the first 5 years of my career, basically.
Dude, but that's perfectly good. And I love that. Like, it's such a simple approach. Some people because you were in a stage when you were baseball, you're like, fuck, what do I do now? Like that is a huge step for anybody, for you, for anybody. But I love the simplistic approach of like, okay, I read a lot about real estate. I know that there's very successful people in real estate. I want to be like that. Let me get into it. Like some people complicate that decision so much. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that you had different thoughts. Oh, maybe let me try this, let me try that. But you're like, you know what? Screw it. Let me go in. And I love that the first thing you did was you aimed to get some kind of mentor, coach to like guide you the step of the way. Dude, like how crucial was that? Like, do you think that like if you were to start over, like if you were in that decision, like leaving FIU, like, or not leaving, but leaving the baseball team, like, damn, what do I do now? What do you like, if you were to talk to yourself, that same David, what would you do different? Would you have taken the same path? Would you have gone like a different direction, or like kind of what thought comes to mind about that?
I think for sure, I don't know what I would have done differently, but I think back to your point about the mentorship, I have a lot of people like call me, like friends and, people that I know, and they're like, hey, I want to get into real estate. I'm going to get my license. What should I do? I always tell them, work either with a top agent that needs some help so you can learn from them, or work with a top team that you're going to be involved in, seeing deals, seeing how people talk to clients, seeing how they follow up. Because that's the only way to learn the business. No one's going to teach you anything about real estate. So if I would have tried doing it on my own, I probably would have been out of the business within the first year. Because even with me having a mentor, the first year was still extremely hard. There were still tons of doubts. Even year 2, year 3, there were still doubts. I'm like, okay, year 1 didn't go well. What's going to happen in year 2? Okay, I mean, got some deals done. Am I going to get some deals done in year 3? And then once you're past I guess that 3-year hump in my business, in real estate sales, I think you really start building a pipeline at that point.
Yeah.
And that's really all it's about. Once you get past those first years, building the pipeline, nurturing the pipeline, and continuing to follow. And the main part of my business, I would say 80% of my business, is calling my hot leads once a week, calling my middle tier leads that are not hot but not cold twice a month, and calling my cold leads that I know this could happen sometime down the road once to twice a month. That's it.
I love that.
And every once in a while they'll say, oh, you know what? I mean, just before this happened, actually, I was talking to someone the other day, or I called someone the other day. I haven't spoken to him in 4 months. And I'm like, man, I should call this contact of mine that we've never done a deal together, but we've always spoken about possibly doing deals together. And he said, oh, I was just in Miami, actually. I'm thinking about buying a condo for $900,000. And he wasn't thinking about me, but he was thinking about buying a condo. So then I called him, just happened to call him at that time. And now we started a discussion of searching. Obviously it got put on hold, with coronavirus, but that's just a small example.
Dude, I love it. And it's so key, man, just following up and having that organized. There's something that Warren Buffett said that it's more on the investing, but I think the same principle applies is you don't need money in the market. You need time in the market to become wealthy. And in real estate, and I want to get into kind of what specifically you do as an agent, but in real estate, you don't need leads. You need more time with the leads. You know what I'm saying? You need, if you have 100 leads today, brand new, is not as valuable as 50 leads that you've been servicing for 2 years. You understand? Sure. 100 leads is sexy and it's cool, but really the leads that you guys have been servicing and talking to and building those relationships is very valuable.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, kind of on the time in the market thing, you need to learn, first of all, what you're doing, what you're talking about, and how you could service a client. Because if I give a new agent 100 leads, he's going to drop the ball on 98% of them. He might close 2 deals out of those 100 leads. If you give an experienced agent 100 leads that knows how to handle a client, knows the product, knows the price per square foot in this certain building, knows how to talk to a client, put a deal together, he might convert 35 out of those. So you can't just jump into it and expect people to give you business. I mean, you have to first learn what you're talking about, and that's the whole reason why I say to work with a top agent, work with a top team, because they're going to be keeping you busy, a top agent at least. Right. They're going to say, hey, go show this, go do that, put this rental lease together, work this rental lead, because the top agent doesn't have time to do everything. Yeah. And that's going to give you experience. And once we have the experience, you're going to know how to talk to them and how to close them.
Yeah, dude, you got to go straight to the top, man. I love that. That's good. And D, what, crap, it slipped my mind. I was going to ask you. So I was going to ask you. So, all right, we fast forwarded there. And guys, listen to that. If Dale's going to start over, if you're listening to this, you're getting ready to start either, you want to be an agent, you want to do luxury, you want to do rentals, you want to do, whatever, residential, even if it's not luxury, you want to do some kind of residential real estate. The best thing is you learn from a top dog. Either get a top guy to take you under his wing, which is kind of tough. Typically, you probably have to start in a team environment, stand out a little bit, offer some deal splits with the guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, you know more about that world than me, but you probably have to start in a team environment, that you know the team is doing good. How do you find that? Actually, D, like that'd be a good question. Like, let's say you're just starting off. How do you find like a top performing team if you don't know anybody?
You could go into your market in the MLS. You're gonna have access to your MLS, right?
Right.
Let's say I'm selling Miami. Let's say I want to go into Miami Beach and find the top agents in Miami Beach. Very simple.
Okay.
I do an aerial search of Miami Beach on the MLS, like with a map.
Wow, that's good.
You look at you chronologically look at the listing agent's name, active sales and closed sales.
Right.
There's going to be a few names that appear a lot of times.
Yeah.
And those are the top people. Those are the top people. And I think what's very important, these top people that you could make yourself available to, that would make it very attractive. If you're not saying, hey, I need a salary, or hey, I'm just worried about making money.
Yeah.
If you go like not work, and it's hard to say because everyone needs money to live.
Yeah.
But if you afford to not be able to like need the money for 6 months or a year, and just be able to be like, hey, I'm just here to learn. I want to learn all the ropes. I don't care. Whatever comes my way, great. If I don't make a penny, that's fine. If I do make something, that's just gravy. You'll open a lot more doors and a lot more opportunities for yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Dude, because if you think about it, like imagine going to that top person saying, hey, it's like David said, like, hey, I need a salary or something. You're really not offering much value. You don't know much about real estate. You don't have clients. You don't have anything. But if you're offering your service, like, hey, man, I'm willing to work for free. I just want to learn. Maybe once I bring a deal, I'll give it to you. I don't know, some kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now you're offering something. And that's a beautiful technique about the MLS. And to break it down, basically you go on the MLS. Let's say you want to sell Miami Beach or you want to sell Coral Gables, whatever, mm-hmm. wherever you're in. Let's say you're in Texas and you want to sell Houston or something. You put a little map in that area. Mm-hmm. You sort the results of the selling agents by chronologically, mm-hmm. and you see the top ones. And you just cold call them. Dude, their phone number is going to be right there.
It's going to be very easy to reach them.
Yeah.
And they're always, and one thing about top agents and top teams, they're always looking for people to hire, because
really
there's always going to be people leaving their team that have been with them for a year or 2 years, and they think, okay, now I'm ready to go on my own. So they always need help with, hey, I need someone to go show these properties. I need someone to handle my rental listings. They're always going to be needing help. Always, always, always. That's a
good tip. And that's a silver lining. Like that's the reason I brought this up. Like some people are like, man, getting into real estate is hard. I'm sure you hear it a lot too. Phone calls like, hey, I want to get in. It's like, actually, if you want to get with a top team, it's not that hard. You just got to find it, make a call, maybe show up to the office or something, and just offer your services. And 9 out of 10 times they're going to be more than likely to hear you out or let you work for them, as given that the situation is right.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
D, so what does your business look like now? You do the luxury, you do flipping. So like kind of explain like what takes up the most of your time, like which of the businesses you're focusing on more, given the times are back to normal.
So as we discussed, my real estate sales is my main priority. That's how I make, that's my bread and butter. And that's what allows me to be able to invest in real estate with that income. And so I would say real estate sales, I kind of have like three things going on. The real estate sales, then I have like the flipping side of the real estate, which obviously, I bought in some deals from you.
Yep.
So I have the flips going on, which I've probably done, 14, 15 flips in my career. Last year, I definitely did the most last year. I think I did like 5 last year. And then this year I had a few going on, but kind of put things on hold for now, but we'll see. Pick up. So I got the flips going on, which I like. It's a completely different animal than what I do on the sales side. And, obviously it's like project management, it's more underwriting the deal. But I do like doing that.
Just like TV, right?
Yeah, just like TV. And then I've been holding a few properties as of 2019. I've been starting to build out my rental portfolio, which is something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it was always something like, okay, I bought this property at a good price. I rehabbed it. I know if I sell it, I can make a $30,000 profit. Now or do I rent it and play the long-term game? And at the beginning, I was more in the building capital kind of stage to be able to, buy more and flip more and buy more and flip more. So I would always end up selling them. And I would always tell myself, I want to keep them. I want to keep them. I want to keep them. And then finally last year, I started keeping a handful of them. And, now it's kind of one that when I'm seeing like collecting rent every first of the month is pretty freaking cool, pretty nice.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to build that out. Again, that's kind of taken a pause for the time being.
Yeah.
But I expect it to go back.
That's good. And I just want to like remind everybody, like it all branches off from like David's bread and butter, which is real estate, and everybody can choose their own path, right? And he kind of said it lightly, but David focuses more on like the luxury side. When we say luxury properties, more of like a value of like 700,000 and up. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, that's actually pretty close to my average sales price. So yeah.
Perfect. So 700,000 and up. He's had a bunch of $1 million listings in different parts of Miami, but and that's not an easy industry to get into. I mean, everybody sees it on TV and says, "Oh, I want to do that," but no one really wants to put in the work and all that. What are some of like the biggest lessons you've learned from like the few years you've had of like doing like the luxury side? Dealing with people that are buying in the beach and renting $8,000 a month condos. Like these are pretty big numbers. Like what have you learned from like I don't know, getting in on that action, selling $1 million listing, $3 million, like those types of things. Like what have you, I don't know, kind of like what is it like a lesson that you've taken away from all that?
There's a lot, but I guess a few that stick out, just being, once you are in front of these people, you have to know your stuff, because if you don't know your stuff, what you're talking about, they're going to see right through you and they're going to have zero faith in you. So you have to know the product, you have to know the market, you have to know the product, you got to know what you're talking about. And if you don't, again, they're going to see it right through you. And two, I would say you have to probably even more important than the first one I just said, you have to be really authentic with them and really care for them and not for the deal. So for example, what do I mean by that? I've had plenty of times that buyers are like, I want to buy this property. And, I could just say, okay, let's write up the offer and I'll make my commission and boom, I'm done, But if I think it's a bad deal, if I think it's not a good investment and I think they might lose money down the road, I'll say, hey, I don't think this is going to look good down the road. Because, the condo market has been changing a lot here in Miami.
Yeah.
I do a lot of condos. I'll stop them from making the purchase. And I'll say, I think rather than buying this, maybe we should look at this property. And it might be a property that they're willing to sign for, I don't know, 1.5 million. And now I'm selling them a property for 800,000. They're going to go, man, this guy's not trying to upsell me. He's really looking out for me. And what that does is, let's say I close that deal or whatever. Now, this guy trusts me. He's going to refer all his friends, all his family to me. And the day he wants to sell it or he wants to buy something or rent something again, he's going to call me. So I think just being very, just caring truly for the client and not worrying about the commission now, but caring for the relationship is honestly the most important thing in my business.
That's a good lesson, bro. That's good because it's so easy to like get attracted to the money or the higher commission or whatever, but that takes a lot of discipline and it takes a lot of like will to that's a very long-term thing. And I love that you said that. That's a long-term strategy, guys. I mean, if you're listening to this, like real estate is not a short-term game. It's never been a short-term game. It will never be a short-term game. Wholesaling, sure, you can make some money, but really at the end of things, it's a long-term game. It's a business. And that what you said is so key to be able to keep the clients long-term, get the referrals, which is extremely valuable because you don't have to pay for those leads. Like if you got that client that you sold him that $800,000 property, refers you his cousin, you didn't pay for that lead, man. That was just on your effort. So now you got a free lead who could potentially buy or sell or whatever. And, you earned you'll earn 10x what you would have earned if you would have like upsold them to the $1.5 million house.
The lead is free, and that lead is the best lead. The referral lead, they're gonna trust what you say. They're probably gonna buy something or sell something with you. So those are the highest converting leads for sure, without a doubt. And like I said, you have the relationship now with that previous person that made that referral. Whereas if I would have maybe let him buy that deal, I probably would have made a little bit more money at that time. But then he would have realized, hey, this building actually is a pretty shitty building. And why didn't you tell me that the elevators are terrible and it takes 10 minutes to get to my unit, which is the case in some of these buildings that I've seen my clients away
those
from.
little things make a difference. When someone's paying $1 million for a condo, they want to know that if their damn elevator works,
So yeah, I think those are probably the most important things that I've learned in my industry. Because, a lot of people don't think that way, think more short term, and they get really attracted to the money, and that's how relationships are burned, but that's how it is.
And by the way, guys, David is 20, you're 28, right?
28.
But David is 28 years old. And how many last year? What was the gross sales of the? I know you got like an award for your brokerage. What was that? What did that represent?
Yeah, last year I sold $10 million in real estate.
$10 in real estate.
10 million.
20 years old, $10 million worth of real estate in South, which is ultra competitive. There's some huge players. There's like there's some big time brokerages, agents, whatever. And I'm sure in your market there's some big time agents, but that just goes to show you, man, it just took discipline. David started, he got out of baseball, didn't know what to do, just figured it out. All right, I'm going to get this mentor, get this coach. His first year, he did $9,000. Do you remember your first deal, by the way? How was that? Was that like messy?
It wasn't messy. It was basically given to me, to be honest. It was the mentor I was working with. He had a little townhouse listing that it was very far from our office, like a good 45-minute drive. So he did not want to go out there. And he said, hey, do you want this listing? And we'll do it, work it 50-50. I said, hell yeah, I want the listing. So I put it on the market. I think we put it on the market for $245. Within like the first 2 weeks, an investor offered, I think it was $211, and we sold it cash. My first deal, I didn't feel like I worked for that deal too much, because it was kind of just, I was with this guy for a year at that point, not making any money. So I guess I did work for it in that sense. But my first real deal was actually an off-market home. So it's actually a pretty nice story. It's I had a listing for $500,000 in a little neighborhood, and I was going to do an open house. This was very early in my career. I was going to do an open house on the listing, and I printed probably like 200 flyers for this open house, and I was like, let me go around the neighbors, door knocking on these homes, and just, if they don't answer, I'll drop off the flyer. If they do answer, I'll try to have a conversation with them, whatever. So a couple of days of that door knocking, I meet this older guy. He was outside doing his lawn, and I started speaking with him, and he said, actually, you know what? I'll go take a look. I want to downsize. And, so he went. He didn't like that house because it needed a lot of work. But we stayed in touch, and he told me that if I find anything, to let him know. Fast forward like a month or two later, I was speaking to a family friend that had a small house in that same neighborhood, super nice, fully renovated. And he told me that he was going to start selling. He was thinking about selling. And I said, okay, I have a cash buyer if you're interested, which is the guy that I met when I was door knocking.
Oh, wow.
And then so I took the guy this was not on the market. I took the guy, my buyer, the one that I met door knocking, and him and his wife loved it. And next thing you know, we negotiated an offer. We got the offer signed. The deal almost fell apart in inspection. Well, it did fall apart. Then it came back to life. I was having a heart attack. It was my first real deal.
Wow.
And then we ended up closing, and I got both sides of the deal off market.
Damn, that's sick. That's so sick.
That was my first real, that
you worked for.
I worked for, and kind of broke me through, gave me the confidence to okay, now I feel like I could do this.
Yeah, so basically networking, man, and the door knocking thing is really powerful. Like it's one of the best ways and fastest ways to talk to um, a human being and find out if they're willing to buy, sell, rent.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it takes balls. So like it's nothing easy, but it was simple. I mean, you just had that listing. You're like, all right, I'm gonna walk around, and you walk around, talk to people, and no one's gonna kill you. And you did it. And you ended up getting a deal, which you a pretty good. Roughly, what was like the commission on that?
So that one we sold it for, I want to say it was like 535, and it was 5.5% commission. So it was almost like a $25,000 commission.
$25,000 commission pretty much started. It wasn't only door knocking, but it started at like a door knock, and then through networking. Oh, this friend told me this about their house, and you put it together. That's an awesome story. That's a good story.
And then I sold the house I was having an open house for to someone else, which was cool, nice too.
Cool. Damn. So you see, like things can happen that easy. And you're what, like a year without really making some money. It was like, I know you did the $9,000 one with your partner, but I mean with your mentor. So you're what, like a year before that happened?
I mean, my first year in the business, my entire first year, I think the first 12 months I made $9,000.
Gotcha.
And then after that, it was still pretty slow, but then I started then that deal happened probably like 6 months after that first year. And then I got a couple more deals done after that. So I started making some money afterwards.
Love it. So you see, like it took really like a year and change to get going. And then you got that one breakthrough. It's like, damn, you got 20 grand there. You sold the list and you got another couple $1,000s. Now it's like, it gets addicting. It's like, shit, I could do this. There's people in it. Man, it's a good story. And then the reason I asked, oh, go ahead.
We finished that story. The original buyer that I met door knocking, then I got the double-sided deal. Then he needed to sell his house. He gave me his listing.
No.
And I sold that for $700. Wow.
Damn, I love it.
But that's that was just all from door knocking, which for like new agents, I think it's a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose except time. But as a new agent, all you have is time. You have else going on.
Yeah.
I wish I did it more, to be honest, just because I know the times that I have done it, I have gotten multiple deals off from door knocking.
Wow.
Except the fact that, once we get caught up and we kind of have a lot of things going on, it's hard to find those 3 hours in the day to go and knock on doors and talk to people and all that.
Yeah. Door knocking is definitely not easy. But look at that story. And I asked you the numbers and asked you all that mainly for inspiration. Like, you're listening to this, you're getting started, you don't know what to do. You just got your license or something. So David has literally just laid out a plan and what has happened in his career to be able to reach success. And now, fast forward a couple of years and, $10 million last year worth of real estate. I'm sure he's going to do better this year given the Corona thing and everything. But dude, it's something that just takes some will, some determination. And like, yeah, your background, you had some sports, you had discipline, but you're a normal dude, like 28 years old when you started, you were 22, 23, just knocking on doors and trying to make deals happen,
Another thing I think that it's for new realtors that I think it's a really big for them is, because I know it was for me, is being afraid of failure. And at first I was like super scared. If I was working with a seller, oh my God, if I get this listing and it doesn't sell, it's my fault. I failed, which is, if you're not doing your job, then yeah, it could be your fault. But if you're doing the right things, it's typically not your fault. It's probably just that the price is overpriced. And I would think, oh my God, I got this listing. Now I have to sell it, or not everyone doesn't think that I don't know how to do this job properly and they're going to judge me. And I used to get that in my head. Now, if I get a listing, the failure part doesn't even come into my head because I know there's a chance that it could fail. But if it fails and they fired me because maybe I didn't sell the property in 6 months or a year, I know I did everything right to try to sell that property. And if they fire me, then, I just on to the next one. It's just like right off my skin.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I heard a quote today, something about like doesn't uh failure doesn't stop death. Failure stops life. Something along those terms. And basically it's an introspective way to say like, dude, failing is not that bad. Okay. And especially in let's say David's world, or if you're in a real estate agent or even wholesaling or whatever, you get a deal under contract, you get a listings agreement signed. And then for some reason the deal doesn't sell, you put it on the market, you don't get buyers, or you get this wholesale deal and you can't find a buyer. It's not the end of the world. Okay. It happens in every single business, even just any business you can think of, there's failures. They buy products that don't go well. Apple comes out with products that they're not on. Things like that happen. Dude, David pretty much just found it out after a little bit. Yo, this isn't that bad. All right, I couldn't sell it. I think your price is messed up. The market really dictates most of it. You have to do a lot of the work and putting the stuff on the market and talking and answering open houses. I would just think, guys, and even if you have no clue what you're doing and you get a listing, that's okay. It's okay if you don't get it right, dude. So what? You learn from it. You move on. Yeah, I'm gonna ask, like, yeah,
I guarantee you, the top agents in every market are getting fired on a monthly basis from a listing they have.
Really,
100%. If you have 30, 40, 50 listings, and the top agent in Miami, in Dallas, and Los Angeles, whatever it is, there's at least one of their clients, one of their sellers that's not happy with them because their house is not moving for whatever reason.
Right.
And they're going to get fired. And I guarantee you they don't think twice about that property.
It doesn't faze them.
It's brushing off their shoulder and they keep going.
Yeah. And another good way to look at that is like, all right, if they fired me, like, that's not the client for me, and just keep your pipeline full. Keep your pipeline full.
Right.
Do you have like any like kind of like role model type figures? It doesn't have to be like in the office. So it could be in the office, or it could be also like in general that you either like read a lot about or listen to in podcast or whatever. Is there people that you kind of look up to that kind of help shape the way that you're moving on in business and stuff nowadays?
In my business, in my sales business, there's definitely like brokers that I kind of look up to and see what they do and ask them questions and, read everything I can about them. As kind of like dorky as it sounds, the guy from $1 Million Listing, Ryan Serhant, he puts out a lot of good information out there.
He's a beast, man.
He's sells almost $1 billion in real estate a year. He has a YouTube channel and he lets you in on his business with full transparency. Full transparency. And I've just from like watching his YouTube videos, he has a course now that I bought just to see what was it about. And just from learning from there, I've picked up a lot of little tricks and a lot of little strategies to apply in my business that I know have helped me and will continue to help me.
Yeah.
But I think something that really changed the way I've looked about kind of just like life in general is when I read like the Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
Yeah.
On what really is a liability, what really is an asset, if it's paying you or if you're paying, the quote unquote asset, and just letting the money work for you. That's when I was like, okay, I need to, with the money that I'm now making, the income I'm making from selling real estate, I need to put this into rental properties. And that book really changed the way I looked at a lot of things.
Yeah, that's a big commonality, man. A lot of the people we've been on this podcast, I've interviewed a big chunk of them, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. So if you guys haven't read that, you need to get it. It's a great book. Robert Kiyosaki I think he's got maybe like 6 or 7 other books, but the Rich Dad Poor Dad, definitely start there. It's a good way to just get an idea for what real estate even is, selling it, owning it, assets, liabilities, habits.
Too.
The what?
It's simple. So like, if you have a mortgage of $1,500 a month and a car payment of $300 a month, okay, your expenses are $1,800 for those two things. Go buy an investment vehicle that's going to cover those $1,800 a month, and until then, do not buy anything else. And then once you want to buy, or upgrade a new car that's $500 a month, okay, then go buy another property that's going to pay that additional $200 a month. So then now your $2,000 a month of expenses are covered. And I was like, that is a pretty simple way of looking at it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the more simple you keep it like that's good, man. It's so simple, like you said. And I think people might get lost in the sauce, but it's very simple, dude. Keep the assets and liabilities kind of in check, dude, because like making income, like anyone can make income in a job or selling real estate or wholesaling or whatever. But it's what you do with that really can make that impact in your life as far as like the financial stuff and giving you more freedom and all. And I love it. I think it's a great thing, dude. So kind of like I want to ask you like a big question, and then we'll end it. We'll end it now. So when you let's say I tell you $100 million, what comes to mind? Let's say like either being worth it, having a company of it. What kind of comes to mind? Where does your mind go? Is it like selling stuff in real estate? Is it owning it? Is it like raising money? Like when you think of like $100 million company or worth $100 million, what goes through your mind?
Owning large multifamilies.
Owning large multifamilies.
Yeah. Which is
like that.
Pretty much like the end goal for me.
Yeah.
To own hundreds of units and just have like a really, cash flow of rental income coming in. I mean, I think my whole strategy in like, I guess my life is to build my real estate sales business up as large as I can. Use that money to buy eventually, more rentals, and then eventually get to like the multifamily and hopefully large multifamily game.
Yeah, to create that passive income, and you got the equity, and there's a ton of stuff you could do about that. I actually just picked up a book. If you want, when I'm done with it, I'll give it to you. It's about commercial real estate, multifam. It's from Joe Fairless. He's got a pretty good podcast.
What's it called?
The book is called. Damn, I can't remember right now. I literally just got it today. I ordered it on Amazon a couple of days ago, but I'll let you guys know after, and I'll put it in the notes. And D, so let's say you have to start over, man. Like you got no more money. You got no money. Donald Trump wiped your shit, and you gotta. But you still know what you know. You wake up. What tactical things would you do to get your first listing? If you had maybe you had like $300 or $500, and you had to get a listing to pay bills and do that stuff. Like what would you do?
Probably start knocking on doors again, man.
Yeah.
I'll find a seller if I knock on enough doors. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Would you knock on doors like what, around like your neighborhood or something, or how would you choose what doors to knock on?
So the best way to knock on doors, if you have a listing in the area, is to use that to your advantage, because you don't want to just knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, I'm a realtor in the area. If you need any services, contact me." They're never going to think of you again. But if you have a reason to knock on their door, so for example, I was knocking on the door that time in that story because I had an open house. So I had a reason to knock on the door. Hey, I have an open house down the street. If you're interested, or maybe you have a friend or family member who wants to move into the neighborhood. You have an excuse to knock on their door.
Right.
If you have an excuse to knock on their door, with a listing is then the best option, because then you do the open house and new listing, whatever. But if you don't have a listing, you can still do it. And what I do sometimes in areas that I don't have a listing, I'll say, "Hey, I have a buyer looking in the area. So hopefully it's an area that you know, and hopefully it's an area that you actually do have a buyer, right. But whatever." You say, "I have a buyer looking in the area. We've explored all of our options of everything on the market, and we haven't found the one that they like. So I'm personally going and seeing if there's any properties that are not on the market, but people might be interested in selling." And they might say no and close the door on you, or they might say, "Maybe I got to talk to my wife." And then now you have their number, and they say, "Actually, you know what? I am thinking about selling. Let me show you the house. Tell me what you think." And that's happened to me.
Wow. That's awesome. And guys, if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh, I don't have a buyer," dude, just say that David and Raul are your buyers, just like, because essentially we'll buy something if it's a good deal. So we really are your buyers. So yeah, if you're listening to this, and I like that, just go into a neighborhood and or maybe if you're already in a brokerage and another agent has a listing, just be like, yo, I'll do the door knocking for you or something, you know, which
you need to know the neighborhood, because if they do invite you into the house, which if you knock on enough doors and you look presentable and, you know, you look friendly, someone's going to invite you in the house. And they say, hey, what do you think I could sell it for? You need to know what you're talking about. So you need to sell, the house down the street in the corner sold for $550, and that was a 4.2. You have a 5.3. It's bigger and it's nicer, so maybe this is worth $700. You have to know or not.
You gotta know your numbers.
It defeats the purpose.
Really good. So disclaimer: before you pick an area, and before you knock on the doors, make sure you know that little neighborhood, so that if you do get asked on the spot, you know what to say, and boom, you have a really good relationship with the seller there. I think that's that's really good advice. Really good advice. Because it's something that's easy to implement. Like somebody can literally do that like right now, you know, tomorrow.
It's just time consuming.
Yeah.
It's time consuming. It's freaking hot in Miami.
Wear some comfortable shoes. Yeah, for sure.
You're sweat. I used to go like in the afternoons when people will get home from work.
Yeah.
But again, this is like, I'm playing the situation that you put in my hand. If I had nothing going on and I had my bank account, what would I do? That's it, to start my business again. That's probably what I would do.
Oh yeah, I love it. That's that hustle. But D, how can people like follow you, or if somebody had like a deal they wanted to work on with you, or they just wanted to see what you're up to, or check out your listings and stuff, how could they find you and reach out to you?
You could reach out to me on my Instagram. You can send me an email. My email is, you want me to just say it out loud now?
Yes, say your email.
So it's D as in David, Vazquez, Vazquez at bhsusa.com, Brown Harris Stevens, USA.com. And you could also DM me on my Instagram. I'm always showing properties on my Instagram, my stories, things that I'm listing, things that that a buyer maybe purchased, or things that I'm showing, David_Vazquez1.
Dude, I love it. Yeah. And I'll put your Instagram and I'll put your email in the show notes here. And also guys, if you don't live in Miami, or you just even want to see what like some of the luxury of Miami looks like, you got to follow David. He's always putting some condos, houses, like good, like cool properties, right? Like on the water, Miami Beach, downtown, Brickell, Midtown, which these are all like the top hottest areas of Miami. So if you guys are interested in look at that, check out David on Instagram. I'll put his notes here. And if you got a deal, or you have a listing, or if you're a newer agent, but you got somebody in like the luxury space, dude, reach out to him. I'm sure that he'll be more than likely to help you. I had told him that he should probably coach people, but maybe little by little we'll get him into it. So
yeah, we'll see. Maybe down the road. I just hired my first realtor to work under me. Yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about before. She was persistent, first of all, in for years telling me, hey, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. I want to work with you. But then she made herself available. She said, I don't need to get paid. I just want to learn. And I want experience. And that's when I was like, okay, I need help. And that's exactly what I needed to hear. So you can learn everything you want from me. You can spend as much time as you want with me. Yes. You can listen to all my meetings, listen to all my calls, see how I put deals together. And she already closed her deal in the first, 45 days working with me.
Wow. Look at that. See, that's the power of somebody that's doing the business and just shadowing them, being a fly on the wall. Even me, it took me like 3 months to get my first deal. It took David, probably a few months to get your first deal. And she got it in the first 45 days because she was under David, like hearing what he has to say, looking at what he's doing on the MLS. What is the script when he's calling these clients? When he's showing properties, what are they saying? Very powerful, very powerful. Hopefully you don't get an influx of a ton of people reaching out to this, but hopefully yes, hopefully no. But guys, so yeah, reach out to David on Instagram. I'll put his stuff on the notes. I appreciate you guys listening to this. If you're listening to this on iTunes, feel free to check me out on YouTube, Raul Bolufe, or the website raulbolufe.com. And until the next one, David, thanks again.
Later, man.